So this topic about the millennium reign of Christ and the short season of Satan, if we want to understand more deeply and see what is really going on today, we have to understand a few things first. So many channels are discussing the millennium of Christ and when was Satan loosed, and try to pinpoint it by only looking at Revelation 20. But if you miss certain information, you can read Revelation 20 all day, but it does not give any answers to what's actually happening today. Preterists say, well, everything happened, it's a done deal. Revelation 20 happened, the kingdom opened, that's it, right? But other people say, well, what about that 1,000 years? And Satan would be loosed. But I try to dive in a little deeper about what's actually happening right now and where we are right now as a people. Even though it's possible Revelation 20 happened already, or we are now being surrounded all these things, right? We can speculate all day, but let's take a look at our history to make sense of today. So the church teaches us that we are just poor grafted in Gentiles, right? All non-Jews are Gentiles, and the Jews are God's chosen people. But this teaching has put us in a bondage, and we will never figure out what is happening. So we have to go a little back first to understand this. There is no difference between a Jew and a Gentile. So if you believe that Satan is the singular being, that the chains were loosed and he was sent out, he was loosed again, and you think this being is omnipotent and omnipresent just like God, you're not gonna figure it out. What this basically does is you try to blame everything on that being without taking any responsibility for ourselves. Satan means adversary, and anyone can be an adversary to God's will. And it can be an entire group of people who reject the Christ and who hate us and go against God's will. But even we as Christian individuals can be Satan. Just like Peter was called Satan or adversary by Jesus because Peter tried to stop Jesus from fulfilling prophecy. So what the priests and the pastors, even the kind Baptist preacher on the corner of the street never talk about is what truly happened to the kingdom of Israel. I talk a lot about this history in my channel, you can check it out, or I even talked about it in part 1 of this series. But the fact remains that by the time Jesus came to Judah, Judah was already a melting pot of different peoples, and not all of Judah were Israelites. Many of these people were Edomites. Edomites are the children of Esau. And Esau lost his birthright, and he despised the true Israelites, the people of Jacob, ever since, because God gave the birthright and the dominion mandate to the children of Jacob. And most of the tribes were already long gone. They were no longer in the Middle East. They went into the nations, the European nations, where also the people of Japhet lived. Our English translations talk about how the gospel went to the Jews first, then to the Gentiles. But a true accurate translation should say that Jesus went to Judah first, to the Judeans, where the remaining Israelites still lived. He came for his sheep, and Jesus separated the sheep from the goats. Then the gospel went into the nations, and this is what Paul did. Paul preached to the nations, the table of nations. Those were all the sons of Noah, which were in Europe. So every time the Bible talks about Greek or Gentiles, it's talking about the same people. These were the Hellenized people of Israel, who no longer had the law, who were divorced, but Jesus reconciled them. That's why there is now no difference between a Judean, a true Israelite who still lived in Judah, and the Hellenized, the Greeks or the Gentiles. So Jesus fulfilled prophecy that there would be a great regathering. The people of Judah and the lost tribes would be regathered. All of them would be reconciled and made one in Christ. I will accept you with a sweet savor when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein ye have been scattered, and I will be sanctified in you before the heathen. But Judah was controlled by Edomites. Even King Herod was an Edomite, and he installed many of his aristocracy and his people in high positions. Therefore, many of the Pharisees were even Edomites. But Jesus warned his sheep, there is going to be a great destruction, and flee into the mountains, right? And that happened. The temple was destroyed, and there was a big destruction of that corrupted place. The kingdom of Judah was part of the Roman Empire, the green area. And Judah was that little tiny red dot here on the right of the map. But God left the building, the temple was destroyed, and that whole area became desolate. Because the children of God, the children of Israel, would become more numerous than the sand of the sea. Or do you really believe that the regathering of all God's people would be in that little tiny red dot? So we know that Jesus regathered his sheep. He made them one again and brought them into the new covenant. That means they became Christian and they built Christian nations. Of course, they had not the zeal to go back to the desolate place in the Middle East. The new covenant, the kingdom of Christ, was established. So who were these people who have been obsessed by returning to these desolate places? Well, Malachi tells us, I have loved you, said Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Said the Lord. Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. And this prophecy was fulfilled in 1948. It was the people of Edom who lived in Judah who wanted to return there. But they were Edomites, not Israelites. But because they lived in Judah, they called themselves Judeans. And over time, these Edomite Judeans started to call themselves Jews. So what happened to these Edomite Jews when the temple was destroyed? Well, that whole place became desolate, and these people were absorbed into the Roman Empire, many as slaves. But of course the Herodian dynasty, the Herodian aristocracy, did not become slaves. Just like in any war, the people may perish, but the rich aristocracy always remains. And these rich aristocracy and the Babylonian rabbis moved all through the empire. Many went into the Khazar Empire, mixed themselves with the Khazarian people, and many more went into places like Spain. The Jews who went into the Khazar Empire convinced and converted the Khazarian people into Judaism, so the Khazar Empire became Jewish. These people were known as the Ashkenazi Jews, who also went into Eastern Europe. Yes, these Edomites went into the Khazar and mixed themselves with the people living there who were a Turkic people. But according to rabbinic Jewish customs, if as long as your mother is Jewish, you can marry into anyone, right, and still be considered Jewish, right? So we see that these Ashkenazi Jews are Turkic looking. But before this happened, most of the Jews were in the Roman Empire, in Italy, and especially in Spain. They became known as the Sephardic Jews. But even though the Romans were still controlling that area, Europe became more and more Christian through the centuries. But of course, the rich aristocracy of Edom was living among them. They did things like money lending, usury, and they had also, besides that, Babylonian and Canaanite traditions, which were not accepted within the Christian nations. And we know that also the Roman Empire fell and the whole of Europe became Christian. But these Edomite merchants, they had a lot of power in Spain. They were even so powerful that they even funded the Islamic invasions, opened the doors for them, and made sure that their cousins, the Muslims, would enter into Spain. So in the 1400s, the Christian Visigoths, even heavily outnumbered, they kicked out Islam out of Spain. But there were still a lot of Jews living in Spain who practiced Babylonian Canaanite Jewish religion. So at the end of the 1400s, Queen Isabella banned Judaism in Spain. So either the Jewish people would convert to Christianity or they would be expelled from the land. And many Jewish people left. One of them was Christopher Columbus. But the ones stayed behind. They became known as conversos, Jewish people who converted to Christianity. So in order not to be expelled, they accepted Christianity, at least on the outside. But behind their closed doors, they still remained in the Jewish religion. So what could the Jews do to remain in power, to stay in Spain, and to keep their money? That was to infiltrate in the most powerful institution of the time, the Catholic Church. They became bishops, and in the 1500s they even set up organizations like the Jesuits. So the Catholic Church became highly corrupt and is still corrupt until this day. But when Spain was controlled by these people and the Roman Catholic Church, most of northwestern Europe became true Christians. And even though many Jews moved into places like the Netherlands and England, they were not welcome if they kept on practicing the money lending schemes and the Canaanite traditions. Was this the time where Satan was loosed? No, I don't think so. Christ already started his kingdom. It will be like a mustard seed which would grow and grow. And the true Christians of Europe, they still were faithful to God and his laws. They still understood that they were a people and they did not want other religions, that Canaanite traditions, Babylon, they didn't want it. So often the Jewish people were expelled. The Jews said they were always persecuted. No, Europe was Christian, ruled by Christ. The people in their minds did not want it. So Satan has no power over the Christian people unless Satan is in your own mind. So what do the adversaries, the Antichrist, do? They go in your mind, beguile you, and try to take you away from God. This is how Satan was loosed. And a prime example is France. During the 1700s, France was still a monarchy. It was still Christian nation. But also the Jesuits controlled France. And the people of the Antichrist, the Edomites, with all their secret societies, came together in the little back rooms and conspired on how they could take down the monarchy, take away Christianity, and create a new world order controlled by Babylon. So they stirred up the French people and told them how bad this monarchy is. There were problems in the country and they blamed everything on the Christian monarchy. So they stirred up the people. People started to walk away from God and desired better promises, just like our politicians do today. So they wanted better promises. They wanted a new society, and everyone who stood in their way was beheaded. Everyone who protected the French monarchy, everyone who protected Christianity was basically put under the guillotine. So the slogan of the French Revolution was about liberty, equality and fraternity, which was the bedrock of our modern day multicultural society. But not just in France. Around this time with another man in Germany called Adam Weishaupt. He was an Edomite and he stood for liberty, equality, fraternity. Not really, because they wanted the power. Adam Weishaupt revived the old secret societies and created the Illuminati. So after the French Revolution we had the rise of a man called Napoleon. And what did Napoleon do? For the first time in history, the Edomite Judeans could become equal citizens. Liberty, equality, fraternity.
You are 5 brothers. I want you each to start a banking business in a different country. One to go and open a house in Paris, one in Vienna, one in London. Choose the most important centers, so that when money is to be sent from here to London, let us say, you won't have to risk life and gold and shell here in Frankfurt. We'll just send a letter to Nathan in London saying, pay so-and-so, and that will be offset by loans from London to Frankfurt. Understand? Yes. In your day, there will be many wars in Europe. And nations that have money to transport will come to the Rothschilds.
Don't talk anymore, the doctor.
I'm giving advice to our sons, Mama, that the doctor cannot give. Remember, unity is strength. All your lives you must stand by one another. No one brother must be allowed to fail while another brother succeeds. Your 5 banking houses may cover Europe, but you will be one firm, one family, the Rothschild.
So now that everyone was equal, we had people rising up in the 1800s like Karl Marx. But what he preached was nothing new. This was just the same agenda, the same spirit, because also Karl Marx came from a long line of Edomite Judean rabbis. So now you can start to see a little bit what the meaning is of this hidden hand we see always in these people, or the one eye symbolism, and all these other symbolism like the Freemasons like to put out, because Freemasonry also comes from that group. Freemasons are put in the world to protect their interests and their ideologies. And they have so much power, the Jesuits, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, right? They recruit sports people, artists, actors, singers, even politicians. Politicians have no choice, but if they want to have any form of power, they have to be part of that club. And when you look at the Statue of Liberty, it's a symbol of liberty. Equality, liberty, fraternity. Isn't it a coincidence that the Statue of Liberty has a broken chain? A chain broken, loosed from what? Could it be the symbolism of Satan being loosed from his prison? And now we are in the dominion of Esau, who wants equality, liberty, and fraternity. So America is governed by a 2-party system, the Democrats and the Republicans. But the Republicans also want to protect democracy. But it is a contradiction, because America was founded as a republic and not as a democracy. So the secret societies who vowed to dechristianize the West and get rid of the European people, they call themselves the Illuminati. In other words, the enlightened ones. It was the age of enlightenment, right? No more God's laws, no more God's people. We're gonna take charge and we're gonna bring our Babylonian, Canaanite philosophy on Europe and America, and we're gonna get rid of Christianity. Some Western leaders like to stand on stage surrounded by Christians to show you that they want to stand for Christianity. But all these people are all either Edomites and Jesuits and Catholic priests. Even the ones who call themselves reformers, they are also part of that same club, because Edom has also infiltrated the Reformed Church. So in the 1800s we see a lot of things changed. They vowed to Dechristianize the West, but the lies didn't end there. According to their own Jewish writings, what you see here is that these Edomites only started to identify as true Hebrews and Israelites in the 1800s. So whether you believe the short season where Satan was loosed happened in the 1st century, or you believe it happened in the 1800s, it is undeniably that in either cases it either happened for the first time or it happened again. So they beguiled us. They turned us against God and we don't even realize it. Now we are even worshipping the Edomites because they started to identify, they lied to you, they brought this new concept into the schooling system, and we have grown up thinking that they are God's people. And just like they tried to use Islam to take over Europe, they opened the doors in Spain to conquer Europe. They couldn't do it now, so it took them a long time, but now again, through control over the European nations, they opened the floodgates of Islam and all other religions and peoples again. But who cares about God? Who cares about our birthright? Who cares about inheritance? Because they tell you that Jesus loves everyone. Just like in the kingdom of Judah. It was a multicultural place where the Edomites who acted as Israelites called the shots, and it was a mixture of Babylonian teachings and Canaanite traditions. Just like today. How many of these people truly love you and your God? But it is all about equality, liberty and fraternity. So is it truly about equality? No, it's about power of them over us. It's about other people and other religions. And they want to take it a step further. In the end, they want to get rid of Jacob for once and for all. And with Jacob, also Christianity will cease to exist. But God will have the final word. We are experiencing what is happening if we walk away from the truth. God said, I send them a strong delusion because they have not a love for the truth. We are now in a season, Satan is loosed, where most people live under a strong delusion because they do not have a love for the truth. Even the truth is offensive, and they will call you names if you stand for the truth. But Jesus still sits at the right hand of the Father. Of course, if the millennial reign ended and we are in a short season of Satan, that does not mean that Jesus has no longer any power. It's just that people don't listen to Jesus anymore. He's right there waiting for you to repent and to turn to him. But you still, many of you still, I should say, many of us as a people still listen to the Antichrist. They listen to the beast. They have the mark of the beast in their minds. That's why we are in this mess. They can try to get rid of us, but there always will be a remnant, and we are gonna get saved out of this, right? When it's gonna happen, I don't know, but salvation will come for the children of Jacob.
Salam alaikum.
Hello, salam alaikum. My name is Phil Hutchinson.
Salam alaikum.
Because the theory goes that there is a sort of Zionist conspiracy to breed out white people. The white British population has decreased by 600,000, while the minority population has increased by 1.2 million. So yes, lads, we're winning.